So today, Special Counsel Robert Hur released his findings in the Joe Biden classified document scandal. And this information, I have to be honest and say I'm not surprised, because we all know he had classified documents at Penn State, in his garage, in his basement. And we also know that Donald Trump had documents at Mar-a-Lago because the FBI raided it to find them. But there's a twist, and because this is the Democrat Party, there's always a twist. And we're going to talk about it. Special Counsel Robert Hur will not recommend criminal charges against President Biden for mishandling classified documents, according to his report after a months-long investigation into the president's alleged improper retention of classified records. It's alleged, but they found them. So you take that with a grain of salt, if you will. Hur has been investigating Biden's improper retention of classified records since last year. Those records include classified documents about military and foreign policy in Afghanistan, among other records related to national security and foreign policy, which Hur said implicated sensitive intelligence sources and methods. We did not hear that Donald Trump is alleged to have information about those same things, but he's been criminally charged with it. And Hur goes on to say, we conclude that no criminal charges are warranted in this matter. We would reach the same conclusion even if the Department of Justice policy did not foreclose criminal charges against a sitting president. So what they're going to do is say, because he's a sitting president, they're not going to charge him, even though he allegedly had documents, like maybe some of the ones in that box that's circled, allegedly. But it was sensitive, classified material that he took from the White House after he left as vice president. It's okay for Joe Biden, but it wasn't okay for Donald Trump. And it goes on to say, we have also considered that at trial, and this is where I think I've had enough, because are you kidding me right now? Mr. Biden would likely present himself to a jury, as he did during our interview of him, as a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. Now remember that, elderly man with a poor memory. This is the Joe Biden that the Democrats want to get reelected in November. But the special counsel is telling us he's an elderly man with a poor memory. But they all say Joe Biden's as sharp as a tack. No one knows how hard he works. So is Robert Hur using this excuse not to prosecute him, or is he telling us the truth? I think he's telling us the truth when it comes to being an elderly man with a poor memory, because we see it every single time Joe Biden takes the podium. Hur wrote in the report that based on our direct interactions with and observations of him, he is someone from whom many jurors will want to identify reasonable doubt, and it would be very difficult to convince a jury that they should convict him. By then, of course, he'd be a former president, well into his 80s, of serious felonies that require a mental state of willfulness. Now, let's break that down for a moment. When he had the documents in his possession, allegedly, he was the vice president leaving office. So he willfully had them. He knowingly had them. I don't think that he was old man with failing memory when he took them, but they're saying that because by the time he went to trial, he would be well into his 80s. with a failing memory. Are you kidding me right now? They really have a nerve to write something like that and try to make the American people look like we're stupid when we all know the truth. He knew what he was doing. I don't know if he did anything with them, but he should not have had them, especially when he was not even the president of the United States. They're just doing anything and everything they can to make this man look clean and try to push him through to another 4 years, which I say this every time I talk about this man. There is no way on God's green earth that he is capable of finishing from today until November, never mind another 4 years. But it goes on. Hur's investigation uncovered evidence that President Biden willfully retained and disclosed classified materials after his vice presidency when he was a private citizen. Private citizen meaning, of course he should be criminally charged. He had no right whatsoever to have possession of classified federal documents. But they're going to keep insisting that he's old and frail, and he was old and frail after he left the vice presidency, so he really didn't know what he was doing was wrong. Again, a kick in the ass to the American people. The materials included marked classified documents about military and foreign policy in Afghanistan, notebooks containing Biden's handwritten entries about issues of national security and foreign policy, implicating sensitive intelligence sources and methods. What are we doing, and who is making this special counsel not bring charges against Biden for this? Especially, he was a private citizen. He shouldn't have had them when he was vice president, but he left with them in boxes, allegedly, when he became a private citizen. And then they turn it and say, Hur said that the evidence does not establish Mr. Biden's guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. How does it not establish beyond a reasonable doubt? He was in possession of mocked classified documents. They seized them. They investigated it. Hur found that he knowingly and willingly had them, but they couldn't convince a jury that he did this. They really believe that us, the American people, voting citizens of this country, are morons. But apparently, we have to take his word for it because, unfortunately, it's not going to change. Prosecution of Mr. Biden is also unwarranted based on our consideration of the aggravating and mitigating factors set forth in the Department of Justice's principles of federal prosecutions. For these reasons, we decline to prosecute Mr. Biden. So Robert Hur made God knows how much money from the federal government to investigate a sitting president for having classified material when he left office as vice president. But they can't find the grounds to bring him to prosecution, and they're using elderly man whose memory is failing. Now, what we all have to really remember about this is those words, and I'm going to go back to them. There's so much in here. I can't even, I read it 3 or 4 times today. Okay, they're not going to prosecute him because Biden will look like a sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly man with a poor memory. Now, those are the key words: sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly, and poor memory. So when it comes time to vote in November, if Joe Biden is the Democratic nominee, people need to open their eyes, read information, and see what their own special counsel, Merrick Garland, appointed Robert Hur to do this investigation. Okay? This special counsel found, and reasons why he's not going to charge him is because he looks like a sympathetic, well-meaning elderly man with a poor memory. And this, my friends, is the man who's sympathetic, well-meaning, elderly, and has a poor memory. And the Democrats want you to believe that he's capable, his mind is sharp enough to run the United States of America with all the problems we have today. Wars all over the place, immigration out of control, illegal immigration, I should say. He's elderly and a poor memory, but he's fine. He's going to run the country, and he's going to take care of everything. They think we're stupid, but what people need to do in November is show this government that we're not stupid. And do not put Joe Biden or whoever they put to replace him if he can't do it in that White House. And it doesn't have to be Donald Trump. It could be someone else, okay? But this information tells us that Joe Biden is failing and is a failure. That's my opinion, and I think it's the opinion of millions of Americans. This is bad. But they're not going to do anything to him, and they're going to continue pushing him out there to mumble and ramble, and then they'll pull him off the stage, and we'll all have to go away and deal with it. It's wrong. This is the United States of America. These people want to destroy us. Our own people want to destroy us. And it cannot happen, and it needs to be stopped.